Hi there. In this video, we're going to be drawing this isometric object in isometric. You see that this drawing has a bit more of circles. It's aimed to make sure anyone who draws this question practices enough how to draw isometric circles. By the time you're watching this video, you should have already grasped the concept of drawing an isometric circle. The main focus of this video is showing you how you can draw these multiple isometric circles in a very fast and efficient way. In an overview, when we draw an isometric circle, let's say we draw this part here, we can confidently say that it's identical to this other curve here. So if in our drawing we have the points that were used to draw this isometric circle, we could easily transfer these points to this part of the drawing. Similarly, we can do the same for this curve there and the one there. On this drawing, you can also see that this isometric circle here is the same as the one at the bottom here. So if I draw the first one here on top, it will be very easy to draw the one at the bottom because they share the points. This also applies to this circle here. They are isometric circles with the same radius. So the first thing, as we always do, is getting the length, width and height of our drawing. Our length is going to be the distance here, it's the longer one, and our height is going to be this distance here. If we look, there's a 7, there's a 40, and there's this 20 here for this radius. So we'll add this 47 plus 20, or you could say 20 plus 40, which gives you 60, and 60 plus 7, which is 67. Then our width is not this one here, it's actually this distance from here up to that other side. So how could we get that? Well, when we look in this drawing, there's a 40 millimeters here from this center to this center, and then we've been given an area, a radius of 10 from this center to that circle. So if we see this is a radius, the distance from here to there should also be 10, and these two circles are the same. So we expect that an R10 will be here. A radius of 10 is also the distance from here to there. So we'll add a 10, the distance from here to there, a 40, the distance from here to there, which gives us a 50, and then the distance from here to there, another 10, which gives us a 60. Our height can also be gotten in a similar way. The height is the distance from this point up to the top there. So we can see there's a 10 from this line here to this center, 40, which gives us a 50. Then we have a 7, which gives us a height of 57. So this procedure of getting your length, width and height is very important. It enables you to know where the distances in the drawing are. If you are to just start this right away, some distances will take you a bit longer, but after you've analyzed your question, you've been able to get your length, width and height, at least you understand the question a bit better. One thing to notice here, we've been given a distance here. If it's not very clear, it's a 7. This is a 7 millimeters, and the rest of the distances, I guess, are clear. So let's begin. We'll draw an isometric box with these dimensions, length, width and height, so that we can fit our object there. So I get the length of 67 millimeters. I mark it. Get my height of 57. I also mark it. My width of 60. I also mark it. So we have our length, our height, and our width. One thing you notice is the drawing that we're working with here is kind of a bit scaled up. So we'll be referring to it, but our object won't be as big as this. It was enlarged so that we can see all the details. Some distances were very small. For example, you couldn't easily see that 7 if the drawing was its actual size. So let's draw our isometric box in full. So this is our isometric box. In here is where our object is going to fit. Before we can start drawing all the isometric circles, it's a good idea that we draw our general shape. So the general shape, there's a curvature here, and there's this flat part and this flat part. So we can mark out this 7. We can also mark out this 7 and position it correctly. How we're going to do that is not very difficult. So we know that this is R20. This radius should have its center in the middle of this drawing. So we'll get half of our width to get where this center line is going to pass. Let's do that first. Our width was 60, so half of 60 is going to be a 30 millimeters. We mark it like that. Then at this marking here, we can use a radius of 20. Mark like that, like this. Then we also have a 7 millimeters that we can mark. It's located on this part here. Some labels on this drawing have been made. Notice I haven't labeled all the points. I've just labeled some points that will be important as I am drawing this. So right now what we want to draw is the parts A, B, C, this corner here, the part that comes all the way this side, the curvature at this point, and we also want to draw this part B, V, U, J, S, T, W. Notice V, U is a part of an isometric circle. T, W is also a part of an isometric circle. These parts at the back here also have isometric circles and just some simple straight lines. So I have marked the point E. This is the point E. Then I have marked 2 other points here with a radius 20 that will enable me to get the point here and the point at the other side. You can also measure the thickness of the bottom. It's also a 7. I'll mark it on lines that I can erect at this point here. This is the 7. Okay, now we're going to draw our first set of isometric circles, the ones here. So they have a radius of 20. The first thing we need to do is locate the center of this circle. With this line, we can locate the center by just measuring 20. So this is the center of this circle at the bottom here. So now with this center, I'll make sure I have a 20 millimeters on 4 lines, which are acting like my center lines. So this line here acts like a center line, so does this one. So I'll stand at the center, ensure I've got a 20 on this side, 20 on that side, 20 on this side, another 20 there. Then I should form a 4-sided shape. So here I formed a rhombus. You can see this is the rhombus. Then I'll look at my drawing here. Notice which kind of ellipse I'm drawing. You notice the ellipse formed here at the base looks something like this. So by analysis, we know that the major axis should be somewhere here of this ellipse. This is the longer distance, and so we'll draw a line from corners of our rhombus that we've just drawn that will match the major axis. You see, if I draw a line like that, I'll have a line that matches the major axis of the ellipse. Then I'll draw lines from a corner that I didn't use to draw the major axis. There are only two corners that I didn't use, so I'll start from this corner, then I'll join it to one of the lines that acts like the center line. So this line here acts like a center line, then I'll draw a line like that. The main thing you're looking for is an intersection. So when you get a corner that hasn't been used, you draw a line such that it crosses that major axis. Okay, so after that, we are now going to draw our ellipse. So I'll stand at this point here to draw this curved part from here to there. Now stand at this intersection. This part, I'll just draw a fence like that. So I'll draw that to construction just in case some of this part here is going to obstruct this arc here. It will be very difficult if I've already outlined, then notice that, oh, maybe this vertical line is going to cut here and then I'll need to start rubbing. So I won't outline it, but I'll outline the one at the bottom. So now to draw the isometric circle at the bottom, we're just going to transfer the points that we used to draw the one on top to the bottom layer. So the first point that is easiest to transfer is the vertical line, which simply comes from this point here, the point where the major axis cuts with the arc that we're just drawing here, is where our vertical line is supposed to come from whenever we're drawing this type of isometric circle. So we'll draw a line. So now we need to remember we used this point here, so we need to transfer this point to the bottom. How? We need to get the bottom rhombus, so we'll transfer this line. Notice this point here is made up of this line and this line, so we'll just transfer it to the bottom like that. And then instead of drawing this line, we can just drop a vertical line like this, and then we have this point at the bottom. To show a bit of your working, you could extend this line all the way to the point where you got it from, so that you can show that you've just transferred the point. The other point we need to transfer is this center here. The easiest is just dropping a straight line like this, and then getting this distance here and copying it. That distance is supposed to be 7. I've also transferred that point so that I can know where I'm starting from. So we are done with the bottom part. Now I'll just extend these lines here. I'll outline them actually. So now remember I transferred the center line. This here is the center line. I'll take it upwards so that I can mark a important distance here. This 40 millimeters is measured with the center line here. To measure that 40, I'll stand at this center line here and then get a radius of 20, because the 40 will act kind of like a diameter. Then I'll mark a 20 this side and a 20 this side, meaning the distance from here to there is the required 40. The other distance I'll need in my drawing is the 40 from this point to that point, which will give me the center. So how I'll measure it is very simple. I'll get 40 millimeters, stand at this center point here and strike an arc. Then I'll draw a line all the way like that. Then I'll drop lines like this. So I have the required center here and there. Then with this, I can outline these other straight lines, the straight line BV and the straight line A going to the same point as V. To know how far they will be on the back there, I'll need to extend a line like that to give me this point here. Then with these, so we have the major parts. The only thing we need to now draw are the isometric circles. You notice I haven't outlined the line that is on this part here for obvious reasons. We don't know where this line is going to pass through on this line, so it's best to avoid outlining it. First, we need to draw this part, this one and this one, and then you can complete this part. So let's draw the circle here, and these other circles. I'll start with the front here, these parts here, and then transfer the required arcs to the back there. The diameter of these two holes has been given. It's 7, so we need to divide it by 2, which gives us 3.5. So I'll get the 3.5. In such situations, you can even get a 4, which is a rounded off value. Then we draw the required rhombus. So we have the required rhombus here and there. Then we check how does our ellipse look like. It's a simple one, it looks like that. So our major axis should be like that. Therefore, the diagonal that we draw should join a corner from this part to the other part. Then we'll go to a center line, or we can go to a corner like we said. This is a corner that we haven't used, and this one. Then we draw a line from this corner to a center line such that it cuts through the major axis that we are just drawing. This time we'll have to draw 2. And then we'll use our required points to draw the ellipse. So the radius here and there are very small. I'll have to use a different compass that is a bit smaller. So those are our isometric circles. They took a bit of time to draw, but yeah, if you get a small compass, you'll be able to at least have them drawn. Next, we'll have to draw the arcs that are here. So to draw those arcs, we are going to just need one point. The point we need, if you can trace back from this circle that we're drawing, remember we stood at one of the corners and drew this arc here. So we also just need to get our radius of that circular part, which is 10. So we'll get 10, stand at this center and mark the required point. So that's 10 millimeters. You can see I've tested, that's my distance here at the top, and I'll have to mark it at the bottom on my right. These two markings are the ones that are going to give me the required point. I want to extend them fully just to make the work look a bit neat, like that, like this. So these lines are part of the rhombus that we're supposed to use to draw a full isometric circle, but in this case we don't need a full isometric circle, we just need part of it. So we stand at this point here, and we draw an arc from here to there. So for this other part, because it's on a different side, we'll have to draw a bit more. As you can see, when I stand here, if I draw that, it doesn't give me an isometric circle or a part of an isometric circle. So if you refer to this isometric circle that we earlier drew, we need this arc here, and this arc was gotten using a different center point. So for this side, we just need this one. So I'll transfer this point to give me an arc for the one at the back there, so that I can finish here, then come to that part. To do that is very simple in this drawing. We already have a line going from here towards this side. We just need to measure the distance between these two here, which is a 7. We get a 7, then transfer the point. So we stand at this point here. A 7 gives us a point somewhere there. It's not very visible. It's actually on a point on the isometric circle we drew earlier. So we stand there and open to this point. You can see it gives us our required arc. So we're done with this part. Now we need to draw that other one. The first thing we draw is a diagonal. We're just going to extend the earlier one that we drew, like that. Then we need to locate a point here. How we can use a corner that we haven't used? We can use this corner and this center line to give us, but we'll follow the ones that we used earlier here so that it can just look neat. So we get this corner and that center line, join them like that, and they give us the point here. After that, we can now transfer the line to the back. So the point we're transferring is the point here, the intersection. Transfer it like that, and then we get the thickness. This thickness here between this line and that one, which is a 7. Mark an arc. This is the point I'm looking for. Now here, before I draw anything, you notice if I draw an arc like that, it will be full and it won't look exactly like that. I need to first locate this line here, which is not difficult line to locate. It's the line where the arc I'm just from drawing here intersects with the major axis. So it's this point here, then draw a line like that. So that line is where my arc is supposed to end. So I'll open my compass and I'll draw my arc. You can see our drawing is unfolding now. Then I can now outline this part because I'm sure of its position. So you can see we are progressing. Now the next thing we're going to draw is the isometric circles that are in this location here. They are not difficult. We already have the center of these isometric circles. It's this one here. I'm going to start with the one on top so that it can be easy for me to draw the others. because the one on top is a full one. So you notice we've been given a 20 here, which is the height of this kind of cylinder. So I'll mark a 20 from that center line that we have, the center point here, a 20 from here going upwards. Now you notice I don't have a vertical line, so before I can draw anything, I'll draw my vertical line like that. And this vertical line is where I'm going to mark a 20 millimeters. So when I mark it like that, this point here is now my center, this center at the top. Notice how I've drawn it. So I stood at the center point at the bottom, then drew a vertical line upwards, marked the 20. Now I have the center. Now since I have the center, I'll need some center lines. The center lines are lines that are 30 degrees. I already have one here. I think I already have another one in this other direction. This is my point here. I just need to mark out my required radius. So what is the required radius? From this diameter 26, we have one radius that is required for this outer part. The radius is 13. Just get this 26 and divide by 2. For this 16, you can say 16 divided by 2, which gives us an 8. I'll start with the one inside. So I get 8 millimeters. Stand at this point, then mark on those lines acting as my center lines, like this, like that. That's my rhombus. I look at how the ellipse is looking like. It should have its major diagonal like that. So I'll draw the diagonal to match what seems to be my major diagonal like this. And then I draw two lines coming from corners. I haven't used this rhombus that will pass through this diagonal from drawing. Like that. I need to draw all the 4 points that will enable me to draw my circle, because we have a full isometric circle. Now we need to draw the other one here with a diameter of 26, meaning the radius is 13. So we'll mark 13 millimeters. On the center lines like that. So the required rhombus is this one here. And the required diagonal is this one here. And you can follow these diagonals that are cutting through the major axis. So this one was drawn like this. You can also follow the same one. You could use different ones. I'm just doing this so that the work looks a bit neat. You could also have decided to use a different pair of corner and center line. For example, you could get this corner and that center line and you still have the same point. But if I do that, my work will start looking a bit scruffy, so I avoid using a different diagonal from the ones I used earlier. So I have a center point here, center point here, center point there, and there. I'll start with the smaller circles this time. One thing you notice as you draw multiple isometric circles is that it's easier to draw the bigger ones than the smaller ones, but with practice you'll be able to draw both. Now the next thing I'll do here is transfer the bigger circle to the bottom, which shouldn't be a very difficult task to do. I'll need to transfer the center points I used using the required distance between these two parts here. See, there's a 20 there to enable us to transfer the required points. If you look in this drawing, I need to transfer this center point here to the bottom. To do that, I'll have to draw a vertical line. Then pick a 20 with my compass and mark like that. Where the arc and the line intersect is the point I need. In drawing, you often hear this method being just referred to as the copy and paste method, but basically what we're doing is transferring the point. We also need this point to go to the bottom. So usually when you're about to end your drawing, there will be a lot of lines. You need to be very careful. For example, the line I'm just from drawing coincides with this line that I was from drawing earlier. The line coming from there passes through this other corner point. When I draw a line from here going downwards, it's kind of just passing through the rhombus, and so the line will meet this other one. So when I mark the 20, it might be a bit difficult to see where it is. It's not a problem if you can't see it, you just mark it maybe with a small dot. Usually this is discouraged, but for illustration purposes I feel that will be easier because there are many lines now on our drawing. So we have this point here, this point, and we also need to transfer these other 2 points. You have the 20 millimeters, so I'll just stand here, mark like that, and mark like that. This procedure speeds up drawing isometric circles in the case where there are a lot that you need to draw. So we are done. Then we will also need some points like this one here, this one here, and this one here. In the drawing they are labeled as O, Q, and P. We need O, P to be dropped to the bottom like that to give us M and N. So I'll draw a vertical line like that. Then on this other side, remember we're getting a line from the point where the arc of the isometric circle intersects with the major diagonal. So it will be a line like that. Then we'll stand on the required center. The arc I want to draw is the arc MN, so I need to stand somewhere here, and it should be this one here. if you check right now, it's difficult to locate where the radius is. This is because we haven't dropped a line from point P. We have already dropped one from the other center line, but we haven't dropped one from P, so that's why it looks like we are stranded. So I'll drop a line like that, then you'll see that everything should fall into place. So now after I have dropped it, I'll stand at this point here, and this arc here, remember at this point it started from this center line, ended there. So already have this line drawn. What we don't have is the exact point where this center line is. We need to mark a 20 millimeters. So after you drop all your lines, it's simply just getting the distance between the curves. Since we're copying the curve here to the bottom, when we drop our vertical lines, on each of those lines we've dropped that will be used to draw or copy the isometric circle, we need to mark this 20, which is the equal distance. Because this is a nice curve that is the same with the one at the top, the points on the same line, for example PN here, P and N are on the same line, and so they'll have a distance of 20. If you move just towards this side, any 2 points on the same vertical line are going to have the same equal distance of 20. That's the principle we're using to copy this arc at the bottom. With that known, now we'll just need to draw our arc. So it's this point here. There are many points, like I said, but you should be able to locate them like that. And then we also need this here and this here. I mark them with dots so that it can be easier for you to recognize them. Then we'll just draw it up to there, because from that point going upward, it should be a vertical line. You can see we have our required shape. Like that. Just now need to outline these arcs that we drew earlier, and we're done with the drawing. So this is all the isometric circles that we need. Now the only part that remains is drawing the web. The web is this part here, and finishing up this other side. Remember I said we won't finish up this part here because you might finish it up then find that this part here is obstructing that arc, but as you can see, that's not the case. So now we need to finish up this drawing. We just need to remember where our center for this arc was. It's not difficult to locate. The first thing you need to know is the center of this isometric circle. It's here. Then remember the center lines. There's one here, another one there. You look at the diagonal. It's this one from here going there. Then you look at a line that's intersecting this diagonal, which is here. So I'm pretty sure this is the center. This is how you locate points in the case where you haven't marked them with dots. Even though you can use dots, it's very easy to notice that dots are not the best way to mark your points for centers of isometric circles. The best to do is understand the principle that we use, and then be able to just read the isometric drawing that you are drawing, and then get the required point that you want. So we have finished that bottom part, and now what we just need is draw that web. So how are we going to draw that web? The easiest way to draw these webs is marking out their thickness first. So we have this center line at the top. It's here. We mark 3.5 and 3.5 like that. Then we also come to the center line on the circle here, mark a 3.5 and a 3.5, then you just join those lines. That is the easiest way you can draw a web. There are more complex ways, but that's the fastest you can draw a web and then finish your isometric drawing. But before you can draw the lines, you make sure you have drawn the line joining the center lines. So there's a line from this center to there, and then you're going to get a parallel line to this line. Should give you approximately where this arc was marked, like that. Then take it to the other side, gives you the same. Then after that, you can simply draw a line coming from the top, like that. Now, since we're sure about everything, we can outline this line that we didn't earlier outline. So this is our isometric drawing completed. It really gets you to practice how to draw isometric circles. If you can draw this one, you're good to go. In this drawing, I was following these measurements to the exact scale, but for starters, you can first try to draw this drawing a bit magnified. So each of these distances you can multiply by 2 and then draw it first like that, then try to draw the reduced version. That way it will be easier for you to draw these circles here, there and there. It will be very demotivating for you to find out that you can't draw that smaller circle or that one because your canvas is not small enough. So when practicing this drawing, you can multiply each of these distances by 2 and it will be much easier. If you don't mind, if you have a small canvas, you can follow the distances as they are. Thanks for watching till the end. Hope you enjoyed this lesson.